And let's bring in Daniel Halper for more on this, contributing editor for the Washington Free Beacon. Daniel, good Monday to you. Busy weekend for sure. From your former colleague at the Weekly Standard, Steve Hayes, writing on Saturday, we know by now what it looks like when Donald Trump wants to condemn someone. Brit Hume is a dope and a know-nothing. Mika Brzezinski is dumb as a rock and crazy. Bill and Hillary Clinton were real predators. Ted Cruz is wacko and weak. Chuck Todd, pathetic and very dishonest. James Comey, nutjob. The list goes on. Donald Trump is an unflinching critic of anything and everything he finds un-American. On Saturday, he flinched. Reasonable people can agree neo-Nazis are bad and what happened in Charlottesville is terrible. Also, no question that the president is a media genius. So not whether or not he should have called out these neo-Nazi groups by name, but why didn't he?
Well, obviously, it's very difficult to get into President Trump's head, and clearly many people in his administration seem to think that it's the right thing to do to call these people out. Vice President Pence, of course, did it last night. Attorney General Jeff Sessions did it this morning. Ivanka Trump, a top White House aide, and of course the president's daughter, did it yesterday on Twitter. In fact, the fact that they're doing it so clearly highlights the fact that President Trump isn't and hasn't up to this point, and I think it's really upsetting a lot of people around this country.
And the president doesn't seem to be getting a lot of support, even from members of his own party, for not doing it. Even Cory Gardner, Republican senator from Colorado, sort of calling him out by name on Twitter, saying you need to do this. But in fairness to the president, the liberal media and some of the liberal groups that are so aghast that he will not call these neo-Nazi groups out are the same groups that were just fine with President Obama not calling Islamic terror. Is there a double standard?
Sure, there is a double standard, but, you know, there's one person who wasn't fine with President Obama and Hillary Clinton not calling Islamic terror, and that's Donald Trump. He made it very clear he would often criticize President Obama and Hillary Clinton, calling them politically correct fools. And how can you defeat Islamist ideology if you don't call it out? And yet, this very action on Saturday is being defined by President Trump's national security advisor and his attorney general as an act of domestic terrorism. And yet, we, again, are not being clear about what this is, what happened, what this threat is, and how, of course, can we defeat it if we're not being clear about it. So I think there is hypocrisy in the media, as you suggest, because they didn't seem to care when President Obama didn't. But there's also, I think, hypocrisy at the top of the White House when President Trump isn't clear with his own words.
All right, live pictures still from Charlottesville as we await that bond hearing. Very quickly, Daniel, we heard from Kristen Fisher that these neo-Nazi groups truly seem to be emboldened by the lack of response from President Trump personally. Does that become a continuing problem for the White House, or is this over after this bond hearing, after Attorney General Sessions begins his investigation as a federal civil rights investigation?
I think it continues until President Trump uses his language to clearly denounce them. I think he's done this for long enough to where they see it as a wink. But if he can be clear continuously, if this ever happens again, to just say something very soon, then I think it could be received very differently.
All right, Daniel Halper in Washington starting us off. Daniel, thank you.
Thanks.